The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved in.
Meditation, ganja, my brain. Ganja, we take away my stress and strain. Ganja, my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana, take away my stress and pain. Ganja, my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana, take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we be bring it on tour. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much and it's been growing. So long that's what we call it.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ganja News Update for this Monday, July the 28th, 2025, here on NOK Network. And we're at episode 132. This is the video news podcast focused on cannabis news being reported in mainstream media. And I'm joined by my amazing joint host right on over here, Tara Simpson. And hello, Tara. How are you today?
I'm fantastic today, Ron. Another busy one, of course. As you know, it's summertime, so like this girl doesn't stop moving. I haven't stopped since the beginning of July. There has been something going on every weekend and things to do during the week to prepare for said weekends. So I'm back at it.
Not much time for recouping in between, eh?
No,
not much time for recouping in between either. It's been back to back to back.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, every single weekend. And there's preparation leading up to all of those weekends, whether it was gathering things for camping at Kim's or then putting all of that stuff away and getting ready for racing and then coming back from that and unloading and dealing with the fallout of that and then getting ready for like crawl was this past weekend. So again, it's back to back to back. And then again, we're going racing this weekend. So we're leaving Wednesday. So these
and you're also moving again soon too.
Yes, I'm moving mid-August. So again, once we're back from this weekend, it's going to be a shit show of let's get this place packed up and get things ready for our move. I mean, we have this place till the end of the month, but we have racing at the end of August. So we really only have the weekend of the 15th, 16th, and the weekend after. So it's going to be absolute chaos around here for a little while, but we'll get her done.
Exactly, get her done. And just also to let you know, I just realized, I think next Monday we're off because it's a civic holiday. We're usually off for that day. So there will be no show, folks, on Monday, August 4th. So you'll get an extra day to get done what you need to get done as well. So
yeah, and that's great because that day is actually my birthday.
Oh wow! Happy early birthday! My birthday's coming up soon too, but in a few weeks, August 23rd.
Oh, okay.
And my 30th anniversary is coming up on Tuesday.
Wow! So, congrats! That's amazing.
Thank you. So and you also had a great weekend this weekend at Canacrawl. You met someone really cool.
I met someone who is absolutely, the most special human being I've met in a very long time. Allison Mearden, who is a huge cannabis advocate, as well as a proponent for psychedelic medicine. Having severe health issues, she utilizes both as medicine, and she's been around the block a bit with legalities and loopholes and stigma and all of those things. And as a retired correctional officer, she definitely is someone a force to be reckoned with. She does have a number of legal things on the go. So we will see if we can get her back on Open Your Eyes soon to talk about those things as they progress. I mean, she was recently kicked out of a pub that she goes to regularly with her friends and family and hangs out there because she had her own homebrewed tea that she had brought with her, which is her medicine. She doesn't drink, obviously, due to her health issues and stuff, but she does need to consume her medicine. And they asked her to leave. They made a big stink about it, and then they had her actually charged with trespassing. So there are some things on the go legally with that, which I think is great. She is a force to be reckoned with. So I hope that they start changing some things, at least for medical. Maybe not for recreational yet in the psychedelic space, but definitely for patient access. This medicine works for her. It's kept her here with us and being able to have quality of life. So why are we not allowing her to utilize that? Why are we not helping a patient to access this in an affordable and safe way?
Exactly.
Yeah. And even, I mean, having a Section 56 was a thing for her at one time, but the problem is that they won't approve it because of the high quantities that she needs to consume. They want her to reduce quantity. Well,
and that's not going to work.
Do you know anyone on a pharmaceutical painkiller that ever reduces their amount? Generally, you go up once you're on something like fentanyl or OxyContin. You don't go down in dose. You generally, over the years, go up in dose. So 100%. Why does it have to be the opposite with plant therapy? And it was the same with cannabis for her. High doses. Oh, we can't have that.
Well, we still have that. People are getting denied their authorization to use or to grow based on high amounts, or they're under high scrutiny for that authorization amount.
And even doctors prescribing that high dosage are under huge scrutiny from Health Canada and face penalties and loss of license. So 100%. Again, why are we treating patients this way? If this works for them and it's safe and effective, which they have proven, why can they not utilize plant medicine? Why do we have to treat them with less dignity than they deserve?
Yep, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's awesome. You got to speak with, meet with Allison. And, I hope to meet her one day as well. So,
yeah.
Anyways, we got to get on with our top stories in cannabis news. So how about let's get at it. And this first story here is from wearegreenbay.com. And it is a follow-up on a story that we reported on months ago about this a pizza place. There were some people that got sick with sick. They had an accidental THC ingestion, and CDC is now confirming that at least 85 people experienced THC sickness from Pizza Place in Wisconsin in October 2024. And this story is by Adam Rosen, posted on July the 26th of this year. Coming out of Stoughton, Wisconsin, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, released a report about 9 months after an incident at a Wisconsin pizza parlor where THC-infused oil was used to prepare dough. According to the report, at least 85 individuals ranging from 1 to 91 years old consumed food from the pizza shop in Stoughton between October 22nd and 24th, 2024. The CDC said that the restaurant was in a building with a shared kitchen utilized by a state-licensed edible THC vendor. Initial reports came as emergency medical services in the area reported to Public Health, Madison, and Dane County, PHMDC, that 7 people had been taken to local hospitals for symptoms such as dizziness, sleepiness, and anxiety. Each individual reported eating from the same local restaurant. The 7 individuals were treated at a Stoughton hospital with THC intoxication symptoms. One person who had eaten the pizza from the same place reported that they had a positive THC result without knowingly consuming any, prompting an outbreak investigation.
Wow, so not cool, eh? Like,
all right.
Yeah, if you were prepared for it, great, but for some people, that's not so much fun.
Yeah, especially if they've never ever consumed before, because they may not even understand what's happening to them, right?
Well, and they wouldn't if they didn't knowingly ingest THC, knowing that, it will cause these things for some people. They probably thought they had been poisoned by something, which would also increase that level of anxiety, not knowing what the hell is going on with them all of a sudden.
Oh, exactly.
You and I both know how quickly that can happen. Yeah. The restaurant closed immediately on October 24th, confirming to PHMDC about the THC vendor in the shared kitchen. According to the CDC report, the restaurant owner confirmed that they had ran out of cooking oil on October 22nd, using some from the shared kitchen to prepare dough. Further investigation revealed that the oil used tested positive for THC, as the restaurant mistakenly used THC-infused oil from the cooperative kitchen to prepare dough. No criminal charges were filed, as police deemed it to be contamination to be unintentional. The restaurant reopened October 26th, deep cleaning and sanitation procedures approved by the Wisconsin Food Code. The CDC report stated the following: 85 persons who responded to a health department questionnaire reported symptoms consistent with THC intoxication. Oh shit, what did I just do? Stupid phone. It's one of those, if you click here, it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I found it. They consistent with intoxication that occurred within 5 hours after eating food from the pizza restaurant. And that was a quote from the Center of Disease Control. The restaurant apologized for the incident after initial reports from October 2024. And there's a link to click to read the full report.
Right there. And the restaurant's apology, there's a clickable link there too.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. They just thought, oh, that's just cooking oil. And again, if it wasn't labeled, which in a shared kitchen environment,
it should be
always recommended that you label anything that could be contaminated with cannabis. Even here at home, I mean, I cook with cannabis on a regular. Anything that is cannabis related is kept in a separate section of the kitchen, in a separate cupboard. It's labeled, a work stuff, or so people know. I would never put just random edibles in the fridge that look like other things that aren't labeled with a THC warning label. So I mean, everyone in my household is old enough to access it, so I don't have to lock that up. But again, if my nieces or nephews were to come over, I wouldn't want them to go in my fridge and say, start using butter that's infused without knowing. So, it might be something they should look at in that shared kitchen environment. That anything contaminated should be under lock and key and labeled.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say that if it is a shared kitchen, anything that is infused should definitely be under lock and key and only accessible by the kitchen chef, whoever of that individual agency is allowed to is allowed to use or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, so that story made it all the way up to the CDC.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Great. Yeah. So anyways, over to our next story here. Do you mind taking this one away for us?
This one comes to us from cannabis.net. The cannabis contradiction: legal cannabis increased consumption but decreased problematic misuse. Legal weed led to more people using but less people using in a harmful way. And this was Reginald Reefer on Wednesday, July 23rd. New study kills prohibitionist myths. Legal weed increased use but decreased problematic misuse. For decades, we've heard the same tired argument from cannabis prohibitionists. Legalization will trigger a public health disaster, addiction rates will skyrocket, and society will crumble as we know it. These doomsday predictions have been the cornerstone of anti-cannabis rhetoric since the days of reefer madness. Well, folks, the results are in, and our neighbors up north and the prohibitionists have some explaining to do. A groundbreaking new study published in JAMA network opened by the American Medical Association has delivered a devastating blow to prohibitionist fear-mongering. The research, which tracked 1,428 Canadian adults over 5 years following nationwide legalization, found that while overall cannabis use increased slightly, problematic misuse decreased. You read that right. Most people are consuming cannabis, but they're doing it more responsibly. This shouldn't be surprising to anyone who's been paying attention. When you bring a substance out of the shadows, provide education, quantity control, and open dialogue, people tend to develop healthier relationships with it. The Canadian experience demonstrates what cannabis advocates have been arguing all along. Prohibition doesn't prevent use. It prevents safe, informed use. Let's dive into what this study actually found and what it actually means for the future of cannabis policy, not just in Canada, but here in the United States and around the world.
Right. And what the study actually found. The AMA study tracked Canadian adults aged 18 to 65 from September 2018, just before legalization, through October 2023, providing one of the most comprehensive looks at post-legalization consumption patterns ever conducted. The results paint a nuanced but ultimately positive picture of legalization's impact. Overall, cannabis use frequency increased by a modest 0.35% per year, totaling 1.75% over the entire 5-year period. This slight uptick is hardly the explosion of use that prohibitionists predicted would follow legalization. Even more telling is what happened with problematic use, which was measured using the Cannabis Use Disorder Identification Test, revised, or CUDIT-R. The study found a significant decrease in cannabis use misuse overall, with the most dramatic improvements occurring during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, April to October 2020. People who were using cannabis weekly before legalization saw their average QDIT-R scores fall from above to below the validated QDIT-R cutoff score of 6, indicating cannabis misuse. In other words, the occasional users who might have been developing an unhealthy relationships with cannabis under prohibition actually developed healthier consumption patterns after legalization. Even more interesting was the breakdown by pre-legalization usage patterns. Those who used cannabis most frequently before legalization, daily users, saw the largest declines in use frequency after legalization. Meanwhile, those who used once a month or less showed slight increases, suggesting a normalization effect where extreme usage patterns, whether very high or none at all, tend to moderate over time in a legal environment. As the researchers themselves noted, fundamentally, however, these results do not suggest increased adverse outcomes for adults who were actively using cannabis before legalization. The study also found significant shifts in consumption methods, with decreases in smoking flower, concentrates, and tincture, while edibles, beverages, and vape cartridges gained popularity. This transition towards non-combustible methods represents another public health win, as these consumption methods are generally considered to carry lower health risks than smoking.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, eh?
Yeah, very interesting that the numbers are coming out. Seeing all that.
Yeah. The prohibitionist fear factory versus reality. For anyone who's followed cannabis policy debates, these findings represent yet another nail in the coffin for prohibitionist arguments. Let's review some of the most common fear-mongering claims and how they've held up. Claim number 1, legalization will cause youth use to skyrocket. Reality, multiple studies, including several from the CDC, have shown youth cannabis has actually declined during legalization era. As the AMA study notes, legal markets with strict ID verification and regulated products may actually be more effective at preventing youth access than the black market, where dealers never check ID. Claim number 2, we'll see an explosion of addiction and cannabis use disorder. The reality, the AMA study shows problematic use actually decreased following legalization, particularly among weekly users who saw their risk score drop below the clinical threshold for cannabis use disorder. Claim number 3, legalization sends the wrong message that cannabis is harmless. Reality, legal markets actually enable more honest education about both risks and benefits. The shift towards harmful consumption methods, edibles, vapes, suggests consumers are making more informed choices about reducing potential harms. Claim number 3, emergency room visits will increase dramatically. And the reality was, while there have been some increases in cannabis-related ER visits in certain jurisdictions, these are often temporary adjustment periods. The Canadian study suggests consumers learn and adapt, with problematic use decreasing over time as norms and education develop. And number 5, productivity will collapse as everyone will become a lazy stoner. Reality, Canada's economy hasn't collapsed. In fact, cannabis has become a significant economic contributor, creating jobs and generating tax revenue. The study found that even daily users moderated their consumption post-legalization, contradicting the image of legalization, creating a nation of constant consumers. Time and time again, real-world evidence has debunked these exaggerated claims, yet prohibitionists continually move the goalpost, finding new potential harms to fixate on whenever their previous predictions fail to materialize. And that's absolutely true. I mean, you can't.
Exactly.
There are some people that you will never get through to. They will find every little thing to, nitpick about and make an issue over because they can't be wrong,
Right.
and accept that this actually is okay and people are okay consuming it, right?
And I'm looking at this highlighted section I got here. Image of legalization creating nation of constant consumers. What the fuck do we have with the pharmaceutical industry?
Or the alcohol industry. I mean, there are people that
Exactly.
drink every day. Some drink a lot every day.
Exactly.
Are they showing better consumption habits since it's so legal?
Maybe it's the better consumption habits is because the education,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not a lot of stigma against alcohol. Alcohol is praised. It's made to seem, it's advertised as a good thing, as a fun time.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hashtag it can make sense. And the lazy stoner. Hey, when I was on all the pills before, I was lazy. When I was stoned out on all the pills, actually stoned out on the pills, where my brain couldn't function. I can function on cannabis. I'm not stoned. I'm
Absolutely.
busy. I do so how many shows a week? You do all what you do. You could.
Right.
We couldn't do what we do without
Folks, I consume probably 20 joints a day, and they're like a good gram size joint. So it's 20 grams a day that I consume. Yes. Do I consume all day long? Absolutely, I do.
Yep.
But do I accomplish a lot? Absolutely, I do. I wouldn't be able to without the help of cannabis as medicine.
Exactly.
That's just, and there's days where I do consume less, right? It really depends on the day.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to carry on here. Why legalization actually reduces harm. So why does legalization seem to result in more responsible cannabis use? Several key factors come into play. Quality control and consistent dosing. Legal products come with lab testing and consistent potency, allowing consumers to better understand and control their intake. Under prohibition, potency is unknown and widely variable. I could make comments on that. I'm not going to, but I'm just going to read this story. Education and open dialogue. This is a big one. If legalization did this, it created space for honest conversations about responsible use, potential risks, and harm reduction strategies. Dispensary staff can provide. Dispensary staff can provide guidance that black market dealers never could. That doesn't necessarily apply here. Anyways, reduce stigma around seeking help. When cannabis use is decriminalized, people are more likely to seek help for problematic use. Okay, why are they bringing up problematic use throughout this whole article?
Yeah,
I'm seeing an underlying thing with this.
What is problematic use? Are they talking about people who, I don't know, like smoke weed all day? Because I mean, again, as medicine, it seems to be an okay thing.
I know. I'm kind of getting as I'm reading the story, I'm kind of getting like a background vibe to it, where it's written with some kind of slant against cannabis. I don't know. Reduced. Okay, so social norms and peer regulation. Legal markets develop community standards and norms around responsible use. Think about how our culture views the person who has one beer with dinner versus the person who gets blackout drunk. Similar norms develop around cannabis use. Product innovation for harm reduction. Legal markets incentivize the development of products with better safety profiles. That's arguable, such as lower THC options. I'm not sure what that has to do with safer. Balanced THC, CBD formulations, and non-smokable alternatives. The Canadian experience demonstrates that legalization doesn't just increase access, it creates an entirely different relationship between consumers, the plant, and society. While prohibition pushes use into the shadows where harmful patterns can develop unnoticed, legalization brings it into the light where it can be addressed through education, regulation, and public health approaches. Yeah, I'm not sure what angle, why they're doing the problematic use angle.
Yeah, I don't get it either. A little odd.
Let me just look at the rest of this. We can continue reading on if you want, or I don't know.
We're almost at that time.
I'm kind of not liking the angle this article's coming from. So, folks, if you want to read more, there is more here. The economic opportunity we're missing. Sticky bottom line. AMA study from Canada provides the clearest evidence yet that legalization's benefits extend beyond just economic gains and criminal justice reform by creating conditions for more informed, responsible use. Legalization appears to reduce problematic consent. See, here it is coming up again. Consumption while allowing adults the freedom to make their own choices. We don't have the freedom to make our own choice. I should be able to have the freedom to make my own choice for wherever I get my choose to get my medicine from.
Yeah,
we don't have that in Canada. So access, maybe recreational access is better, but for patients, it's pushed it back into the shadows.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're going to go on to our next story, last story before the break. A quick one here. And this one here is coming to us from filtermag.org. Malta rolls back historic cannabis legalization, calls odor, like the smell, a nuisance. And this is by Felipe Nis Araujo, posted July 15th, 2025. In late 2021, Malta became the first European country to legalize marijuana possession for adult use. Anyone over 18 could keep up to 7 grams on their person and up to 50 grams at home, plus grow up to 4 plants. If you can grow up to 4 plants, that's a lot more than 50 grams.
Yeah.
Just saying. The act also established a regulatory framework that included the cultivation and distribution by licensed nonprofits known as Cannabis Harm Reduction Associations, or CHRA. Portugal and other countries had decriminalized personal possession, but it was still a civil violation. Malta's reform was praised as a pragmatic, public health-oriented pivot that would siphon revenue away from drug trafficking groups and spare people the burden of a criminal legal record. Public consumption remained banned, but people could smoke cannabis at home. 4 years later, the island nation's governing Labour Party has changed its tune. In May, the Parliament of Malta unanimously approved Bill 128, which sets a €235 fine for public consumption of non-medical cannabis, including in any place where the odor causes a nuisance to third parties. Previously, this had only applied to public consumption, but it now includes people smoking in the privacy of their home if a neighbor complains about the smell. A free hotline has been set up to receive complaints. In July, the warning letters began to arrive. That's crazy.
Wow, that is a step backwards, eh?
Right?
Just saying, in your own home, your neighbor's going to call and complain? Like, come on. Like, that's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people were smoking on their balconies and annoying people who lived above them. Joey Reno Vela, the executive chairperson of the Authority for the Responsible Use of Cannabis, told the Times of Malta earlier in 2025. The law states that no criminal proceedings shall be taken except at the request or authorization of the Authority on Responsible Use of Cannabis, but it becomes a court matter if the fine goes unpaid. And then what? As time goes on, we will, ARUC, handle people who are fined repeatedly and cannot pay. We're back to punishing plants and people instead of fixing the real problem, which are housing density, social stigma, and lack of safe venues. Maltese activist and former ARUC employee Karen Mamo told Filter at an academic drug policy conference in June, the CHRA have been forbidden from operating on-site lounges. The policy U-turn did not come out of nowhere. Policing remained part of legalization from day one, targeting young people who smoked outside. Police officers pounced on those using cannabis on beaches or rooftops. Conservative lobbyists and the Catholic Church spread a narrative about Malta becoming the new Amsterdam. In 2023, House Representatives Deputy Speaker Claudette Pace told members of Parliament that she had met a visually impaired man whose guide dog had gotten high from secondhand weed smoke. Okay. In 2024, the government launched a high-profile responsible cannabis use campaign. Warning about the fines for smoking in public or near minors appeared on billboards and Instagram posts. The message was clear. Cannabis is still a threat to children and public order. These tired tropes ignore the fact that adults can drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes while holding a child in their lap, but apparently not pose the same risk. The island's densely populated apartment blocks, the issue of odor complaints emerged as a way to effectively roll back the 2021 protections. In 2011, Malta saw a historic cannabis criminalization protest led by David Karua, who was facing charges for growing cannabis plants on his balcony. Cultivation was considered to be drug trafficking, even in personal use quantities. Advocates highlighted the case of Daniel Holmes and Barry Lee, who in 2006 had been arrested for growing 5 plants. Lee died by suicide while awaiting trial. Holmes was serving a 10.5-year sentence and was released in 2018. Wow, that's wild.
Crazy. NGOs such as Relief Malta rallied public support and pushed politicians to imagine something better. This lobbying gained traction after 2015's Drug Dependence Act nominally decriminalized personal possession, but left police free to detain users for 48 hours. Advocates fighting against piecemeal reform finally prevailed in 2021. The new amendments will fall hardest on tenants who cannot control communal airflow, on working-class youth who smoke cannabis outside because landlords ban indoor use. Cultivating the 4 permitted plants anywhere other than at home now comes with a fine of up to €1,000, yet the plants cannot be visible outdoors. Such fines may not deter affluent growers with detached homes and gardens, but may bankrupt someone renting a third-floor walk-up in Berkshire. The new law could easily clog the courts, with every contested fine becoming a quasi-forensic dispute over whose nostrils caught what and when. And perhaps most galling, the new law imposes mandatory data sharing on CHRA. They must hand over their membership list to ARUC, sowing fear over how that information will be used. Malta once offered reformers across Europe a glimpse of what nationwide legalization might look like outside the Americas, yet Malta's rapid reversal shows how fragile reform can be, and that legalization is a process, not a finish line. That's crazy. Crazy.
Wow.
Backwards in time. Going backwards in time there.
Right?
Anyways, folks, it's medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills, so stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles making mainstream media news.
That's right. We'll be back in just a few minutes. In fact, 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Cheers.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyendinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Hold it in, feel it in your ribs.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Check us out in Tyendinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyendinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Tune in daily to NOK's diverse podcasting lineup. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Tara Simpson and Ron McNabb. Wake Up with the Waniac, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Tombstoner Wayne Cruz. Crow 420, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern with the Forgetful Stoner Ron McNabb. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Hobbies Puppets and Tara Simpson. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Kim Cooper and Sir Stevo. Open Your Eye, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson. Followed by Thursday Night Vibes, 9:15 Eastern with Master and Mama Rochi. Cannabis and Crime, Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Christine Terra from Machete Cat Productions. The IWK 710 Daily Set airs nightly, 7 days a week, with international rotating joint host, 7 p.m. Eastern. Rise and shine, it's marijuana time. Wake and bake with Ron McNabb at 7 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Thanks for tuning in to all the podcasting on NOK Network.
And we're back from our medication session live here on Ganja News Updates on NOK Network.
That's right. And we have another set of stories coming at you, making cannabis news. So let's get at it. And do you mind starting this one out for us, Tara?
For sure. So this one comes to us from cannabisclinicians.org. Drug interactions with cannabis. So medicinal cannabis use is at an all-time high in the United States from 2016 and 2020. Alone, the number of patients enrolled in a medical state marijuana program quadrupled. According to a study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, as many as 8 million Americans use medical cannabis routinely to treat chronic conditions. Per estimates from the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, as cannabis grows in popularity, healthcare professionals may find more and more patients turning to them with specific questions about medical cannabis use. But to answer these questions and support their patients, healthcare professionals need education and training on the topic, as well as clinical guidelines that provide evidence-based information about efficacy, safety, and appropriate dosage of medical cannabis products. A 2022 study in which 26 healthcare professionals who dealt with chronic pain patients were interviewed found that vast majority reported not being not ready or comfortable to answer patient questions regarding medical cannabis. They also felt unable to issue a written authorization for a patient to access medical cannabis. Until these gaps in education are addressed, healthcare professionals will continue to be limited in their ability to make treatment recommendations about medical cannabis for their patients. This blog should serve as a resource for healthcare professionals, including physicians, pharmacists, and nurses who wish to counsel patients on potential drug interactions between cannabis and other drugs.
Great. And you and I have talked about this in the past before, and we've reported on stories where certain medications can either increase or decrease the efficacy of the cannabis, or cannabis can increase or decrease the efficacy of the medication you're on. Mm-hmm. And if your doctor doesn't understand about cannabis or doesn't even know you're using cannabis and they're prescribing medications, there might be contraindications that can occur from that. Not everyone is going to experience that, but it is out there. I've experienced it myself, where I realized that I needed to titrate down on the medication that I was on because I was increasing my cannabis usage. So I was experiencing a subset of side effects that were typically over in the rare category, but it was no wonder because of the way that my body was processing the drug because of the cannabis being in my system. Absolutely. So that's what this article here, the blog article, is talking about. And there's a big disconnect between medical professionals and understanding about the endocannabinoid system and cannabis and all that. And this theory says there's a lot of them that just don't feel comfortable, just don't know about any of it. So anyways, we'll try to carry on through this quickly. We might have to skim over some of it. But it does bring up some important points in here. Number one, understanding cannabis pharmacology. The endocannabinoid system, or the ECS, is made of three different components: endocannabinoids, receptors, and enzymes. The endocannabinoids are molecules that are already in our body that are similar to cannabinoids that are found in cannabis. Endocannabinoids help to keep our internal functions running smoothly. Receptors are the binding sites for endocannabinoids to signal the ECS to activate. The effects vary depending on where the receptor is and which endocannabinoid binds to it. Enzymes break down endocannabinoids after the function is carried out. Overall, the ECS helps maintain homeostasis. It can help regulate our immune system, reduce inflammation, and promote healing. Cannabis plays a part in the ECS since cannabinoids like THC, short for delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, bind to receptors, which in turn activate the ECS. THC is the main psychoactive ingredient in the cannabis plant, and it's what gives users a high feeling. For example, THC binds to CB1 and CB2 receptors. CB1 receptors, or CB1R, are primarily found in the central nervous system, and this binding site can lead to psychoactive effects such as euphoria, perception changes, and increase in appetite. CB1R is concentrated in the forebrain, the region most responsible for cognition. CB1R levels fluctuate over a lifetime, with the peak between 15 and 17 years of age. CB2 is found in the peripheral nervous system and immune systems, which can help reduce inflammation and pain. THC dominant chemovars can be used for pain relief, nausea, appetite stimulation, and muscle relaxation, but could cause side effects of anxiety, dry mouth, impaired memory, and coordination. CBD, which is short for cannabidiol, is different from THC because it does not bind directly to the receptors. Instead, it inhibits enzymes from breaking down endocannabinoids that are currently found circulating in the body. CBD is not psychoactive and is thus easier to find in the US than THC. While they both have the same molecular formula, 2 carbon atoms, 30 hydrogen atoms, and 2 oxygen atoms, the way the atoms are arranged is different. The difference is why THC and CBD have distinct chemical properties and unique effects on your body. The next heading is common prescription drug interactions with cannabis. Maybe you can read that section for us, Tara, please.
Yeah, when using THC, it's important to monitor for drug interactions. Cytochrome enzymes, which are called CYP for short, are a family of enzymes responsible for the majority of drug metabolism occurring in the liver. THC is primarily metabolized in the body by an enzyme in this family, CYP3A4. About a quarter of drugs are metabolized by this same enzyme. Because cannabis is a potent CYP3A4 inhibitor, it can cause an increase in the concentration of drugs metabolized by this enzyme. This fact is important because patients who are using medical cannabis are often patients who have concurrent comorbid conditions and are on other prescription drugs. An increase in the concentration of certain medications can mean an increase in their effect. For an antibiotic, this may mean an increase of diarrhea. For a blood pressure medication, this may mean an increase in risk of falling because your blood pressure drops dangerously too low. For a diabetes medication, an increase in concentration can cause hypoglycemia and risk of dangerous low blood sugars. Medications can also be toxic at certain doses. An increase in the concentration can cause a risk of toxicity. Medications that have a narrow therapeutic range, like levothyroxine, which is for your thyroid, warfarin, which is a blood thinner, and digoxin, again, that's, I believe, a heart medication, are medications that can be affected most by increases or decreases in concentrations. We will take a closer look at a few common drugs that are extensively metabolized by this CYP3A4 family. This includes calcium channel blockers like amlodipine and nifedipine, macrolide antibiotics, benzodiazepines, certain statins, notably atorvastatin and rovastatin, HIV medication, in particular the protease inhibitor class, and steroids. Warfarin, Coumadin, a common blood thinner, also interacts with THC by inhibition of CYP2C9, which metabolizes warfarin. This can cause higher levels of warfarin in the blood and potentially increase in INR and or risk of bleeding. Other patient populations that may experience significant drug interactions are transplant recipients. Many medications that are used to prevent organ transplant rejection interact with THC. Calcircerin inhibitors, so cyclosporin and tacrolimus, and mTOR inhibitors, seriolimus and everolimus, are both metabolized by CYP3A4. Since THC can inhibit CYP3A4, it can cause elevated concentrations of these medications. Elevated levels of these medications can lead to toxicity, kidney damage, high blood pressure, increased risk of infection by increasing the immunosuppressant qualities of these medications. Corticosteroids like prednisone, dexamethasone metabolization can also be affected by THC, although the pathway is not as well defined. THC can alter the gastrointestinal absorption of antimetabolites such as mycophenolate and azathioprine by decreasing GI motility. Wow.
Yeah. Which makes sense because cannabis has chemical properties in it that our bodies are going to react to. Now, not everyone may react the same way, but to like I've been talking about this for way before I've seen stories coming out on this, and I've been saying this is where Health Canada has dropped the ball with medical patients in Canada, as well as the military with the vets with their vet program.
Absolutely,
because you have to monitor which drugs these people that they're getting, and versus their consumption and consumption methods of the cannabis that they're consuming, and take that all in consideration, and either lower or raise the dosage of the drug if you're still going to be using the prescription. Then that needs to be all taken in consideration to be sure that you're limiting the side effects as much as possible. I'm just going to, I'm probably not going to read all this in directly here, but common over-the-counter drug interactions with cannabis. So it's not just prescription drugs that you have to go to your doctor to get a script for. THC may also interact with several common over-the-counter medications like use with NSAIDs, such as ibuprofen and aspirin, can increase the risk of GI bleeds and ulcers, since both NSAIDs and THC can affect prostaglandin synthesis and inflammation. Antihistamines can contribute to the drying and drowsing effect of THC. On the flip side, THC can increase heart rate and blood pressure when taken in combination with pseudoephedrine and phenylphrine. At the time of this writing, phenylphrine is no longer a recommended treatment anymore for congestion. But pseudoephedrine, that's in a lot of your nighttime cold medications, I do believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And some supplements. So even outside of over-the-counter drugs and prescriptions, now you've got supplements, which include other plants, can have interactions. And again, not the same for everybody, but it's good to be aware of what these possible interactions can be, so that way you can, and again, if you are taking medications, you're seeing your doctor, I stress, be upfront with your doctor and let them know everything that you're taking, because they're not going to know if you don't tell them.
Absolutely.
And you may just get prescribed another pill for something that could be adjusted by a dosage or medication change or whatever. So stuff like St. John's wort, melatonin, and valerian root, these are all common things that people use. Echinacea, right? They can all have an effect. Factors influencing drug actions with cannabis. The route in which THC is consumed also plays a huge part in how it interacts with the body and medications. So versus like inhalation versus oral, edibles or whatever. Topical individual variations also have a large effect on how THC is absorbed. Most of this is just stuff I've already talked about. And so if you want to find out a little bit more about the story, check it out. But it is definitely, I think, the education, your education that interactions exist is important, especially for prolonged or chronic diseases, by understanding the way that THC works in our body, as well as how the medications that we take work. We are able to better understand and enhance safety and treatment outcomes. 100%.
Absolutely.
Because I have actually experienced this myself. So I know it's not just someone writing an article. Once I figured out what was happening, I was able to get things under control. So,
for sure.
Let's see. We got. We can do this next one, but we can just.
It's really long, so if you want to cover it in full, I would say next week would be.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do that one next week. It's kind of. I'll give people a bit of a sneak view on it, sneak peek thing. It's medical cannabis and polypharmacy. When less is more. How cannabis can reduce medication burden, which ties in directly with the article we just read just now, because. It's that balance. You can either use, because you're using the cannabis, you can reduce the medication to a certain point, but you might just be able to reduce your medication to nothing. You never know. Each person's different, but I think this is a good article. We will cover that next week. We'll do this one last one here.
It's a shorter, but
and kind of interesting too. So here we go. You mind taking this one away?
For sure. This one comes to us from Billboard.com. Glorilla speaks out following drug arrest. Instead of finding suspects, they focus on some cannabis. Glow's house was burglarized while she was out of town, but the rapper was hit with a pair of felony drug charges after law enforcement searched her home. And this was written by Michael Sparonara. Glorilla has spoken out after being arrested on a pair of felony drug possession charges in Georgia. The Memphis rapper's arrest came after law enforcement searched her home following a burglary while Glow was out of town for her performance at the WNBA All-Stars game on Saturday, July 20th. Glorilla turned herself in to a Forsyth County jail on Tuesday, where she was booked on a felony possession charge of marijuana and a separate charge of possession of a Schedule 1 controlled substance. The CMG artist says she doesn't understand how her home being burglarized could lead to her arrest while she wasn't even present. Crazy. My house got home invaded Saturday while I was in Indianapolis performing for the WNBA All-Stars game, she wrote to X on Thursday. Instead of focusing on finding substances, they focus on some cannabis. Glow continued to clear the air. 1. So no, I wasn't busted. 2. My house got robbed. 3. I wasn't home. Long story short, my house gets home invaded and I'm the only one that got arrested. And so that's the tea, she says.
Yeah, like crazy. The suspects fled the scene after being met with gunfire by occupants at Glow's home, but no arrest warrants have been issued by police. Glorilla posted a $22,260 bond to secure her release just hours after turning herself in. Glow's attorney, Drew Feinling, slammed law enforcement in a statement to Billboard, calling the arrest a disturbing window into how warped law enforcement priorities have become. Feinling concluded with another jab. This is our tax dollars at work. Absolutely unbelievable. Glorilla will host her first ever Glow Bash on Friday, July 25th in her hometown in Memphis at FedEx Forum with performances from Sexy Red, Rob 49, and Mooney Long. All over some cannabis. And whatever happened to the people who broke into her home?
Yeah, right? They obviously didn't steal the weed.
Yeah. Maybe, okay, if they had stolen the weed, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe she still would have got charged, but then maybe they would have arrested the break-in suspects because they had weed.
Maybe.
I don't know. Again, hashtag make it make sense.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. That's the kind of world we live in today, folks. That's the kind of world we live in today. So, anyways, we've come to the end of our show. We will bring up that other story that we didn't cover tonight. We'll do that first thing next week. No, not next week. It'll be August.
When we're back.
When we're back, August 11th. So thank you all for joining us this week on Ganja News Update on NOK Network and for tuning into our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our several social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you've enjoyed your update today on mainstream media coverage of cannabis news and information from around the globe.
And many thanks to our sponsors for making this show possible. And thank you to my joint host, Tara Simpson right on over here, and to you, our listeners, for joining us each week on Meducation Mondays with Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Good night, folks, and peace.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja we take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we be bring it on door. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you. Ganja in the daily, ganja on me currency. Ganja is the currency